Welcome to the Middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A., this is a very strange episode for us to be doing today because we're actually in separate places.
We are. We're recording this virtually, and it's the first one where you and I have not been in the same room. Don't worry, podcast fans, we're not having some kind of weird row. But unfortunately, due to scheduling, as things have worked out today, we can't do this in the same place because of plans later on. So, yeah, we're having a go at this virtually. So, yeah, let's see how this gets on. I mean, the one good thing, Rich, of course, is I won't moan to you about the chair or anything now because I'm in my own house, and so I'm totally responsible for my own comfort. Unlike the previous 25 recordings, where my comfort was very destined by how you wanted to allow me to be comfortable or not.
Hang on a minute. I mean, we have recorded an episode or two at your place too, and I would say the chair you now have here is certainly far more comfortable than any of the chairs we have sat in at your place.
Oh, that's cutting. That is. No, that's not nice.
I'm very comfortable anyway in my chair currently, so I'm happy.
Well, you should be. You bought that nice new one, didn't you?
I did indeed.
So you know.
I should point out it wasn't just purchased for the podcast, it was also for working from home. It's just a little bit of a better chair for that.
That's fine. And I got your cast-off chair.
That's a very good chair. You can't...
This chair. Better than what you had got me sitting in, that's for sure. Anyway, that was season 2. This is season 3. We're not worried about chairs. We're all on brand at the moment. Rich, should we have a look at where we're going with the weights as a starter for 10?
Yeah, we haven't really brought up the weights as much as probably we'd intended this season already. I know we said we'd bring them up, but...
Well, we're kind of alternating them, I think. We've kind of gone episode 1, 3, now 5. We're sort of... It's not every week, it's kind of every other week. So we're not over going into it, but it's given us a chance to sort of reflect and look at progress, which I think is probably a bit of a theme for our episode today. So, should we have a look at where we were at then on episode 3?
Let's do it.
Which 2 weeks ago now. You know, let's break the fourth wall. It's Saturday the 8th of February, folks.
We don't need to break the fourth wall this often.
I think this goes out 4th of March, and hopefully the weather's getting a bit better as we move towards spring. But today it's February. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago we were at, let's have a look. So I weighed in at 19 stone 3 pounds, which is 122.2 kilos, and you'd come in at 19 stone 5 pounds, which is 123, I think, 0.2 kilos. So last week, and he's at it again, listeners, right? So my weigh-in for last week was 19 stone 3 pounds again, so non-mover, still 122.2 kilos. Raging Rich sent me some messages that he's been trying out to weigh in different rooms in his house now.
Hang on, I'm not having this. Because what happened was initially, when we spoke about this, you pointed out that the floor in my office was probably not the best place to be weighing because it's on an angle. So, okay, cool. I'll go to the bathroom, the best place to use the bathroom weighing scales, put them in there, fine. The issue then, of course, is my scales are on the blink. That's the next thing. But yeah, go on, you continue. You're the one who told me to do it. I'm only going with your advice. You're making it sound like I'm the villain.
I'm not. You haven't allowed me to finish. The other thing is, your scales being on the blink, I think, was a this week issue. Let's stick with where we were with last week's issue first. So what I get, listeners, is from his previous week of 19 stone 5, where each week he's been weighing in on said floor, that I did say might not be the most accurate in terms of as a surface. I did say that, and I did recommend that I do use my bathroom floor for weighings. So what he did then come back and say was he was down to 19 stone 3 on normal weighing floor, which he thought might not be the most accurate, and then he weighed in on his bathroom floor at 19 stone 1. Now, we had this then debate about where do we go, because if you think about we're meant to keep the circumstances the same, aka, weighing in both on the same days, in your pants, same surfaces, same conditions, to make it like a proper I don't want to turn this into like, the football with the VAR, where some grounds had got it in the FA Cup and then some hadn't. And then there's this issue around, is it fair? And now this year they're trying to do, you can only bring it in the 5th round. So we're trying to keep, a very...
You're saying I'm Harry Maguire and I'm a mile offside. If you're comparing me to Harry Maguire, we're going to have a row, because I'm not a fan of Man U at all.
It's nothing to do with Manchester. Don't bring Manchester United. We don't talk football on here.
You started it.
No, I didn't. I just doing a comparison about
Go
the
on,
issues that you've
continue
got to have.
your comparison.
So
you'll hear from my lawyer.
I pay for them. You don't pay for the lawyer. So what? You're going to start contributing to the legal costs.
Don't make me start. You know where it'll go.
Hang on a second. Are you going to bring Matt Murdoch back in again for the 98th time? Whoever Matt Murdoch might be. Ant-Man, Devilman.
Whoa, my God.
I don't know.
Don't start.
What?
I'll bring an army of superhero fans round to show you who Daredevil is.
So what I said to Rich was, okay, I accept your point, but I think we have to keep the same format. So he needs to keep, technically, his uneven floor. He can do the 2 weigh-ins if he wants to see if it maintains this £2 differential. But really...
Where's this coming from?
No, just what? This is kind
you
of
have to show me this conversation where you say this, because I don't believe this is how the conversation went.
I thought we did. Am I imagining? Is this just in my mind of how I debated this? Maybe I had this chat with the lawyers anyway. So we kind of then sort of get to this point of agreeing that, well, actually, if we stick with the current sort of semantics as such, we'll let Rich then use the existing floor. So he stays at 19.3, which puts us then on the same weight, which, for the purpose of the challenge is good, and we'll see what happens. So then we kind of come into this week, where we weighed in yesterday, I think, it's fair to say, Friday morning, and I was the same again. So I've held the same weight of 19 stone 3 for 3 weeks in a row, which is, from a progress point of view, it's not progress, but it's not getting worse. But we'll talk about other things around progress. Rich messages me and says, this time, his scales are on the blink. So whether it's the bathroom floor, the kitchen floor, his bedroom floor, it's on the blink. And he's getting different readings and error messages. Is that fair? And you had 19 stone 2, 19 stone 6, 19 stone 9, 12 stone 3. You've had every sort of conversion of weights and error messages, it seems, and it might be you need some new batteries, some new scales, we're not sure. So at the moment we don't really know what to go with, so I've sort of wrote down. Right,
you're hearing from my lawyers now, because this technicality you keep creating and this version of events, we need to get Emily Sunday on here now with this for our version of events, because this is terrible.
What's wrong with this version of events? This is what happened.
I don't believe they are completely accurate.
You messaged me saying I've had 19 stone 2, 19 stone 6, 19 stone 9. I've had error messages. You messaged me this. And
I have messaged you stuff, but I do feel you're embellishing on it a little bit more. But yeah, there were some issues with the scales, definitely. And I did mention this a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of ploughed on because they seem to be working again. But there's definitely something going on. I think I did change the battery, and that did help a little bit, and then it's gone on the blink again. So I do think definitely need a new pair of scales. They are quite old.
Okay, well, then maybe that's the investment.
Well, maybe we should invest in podcast equipment and include the scales in it, and I'll sort that out.
Okay, we'll both have identical scales. We'll have somebody come out and level our flooring at both our houses, and either that or what we'll have to do, Rich, is like boxers when they weigh in for a fight. And they have them stand on the scales in their pants at a press conference. We'll have to do that every week. But for me and you, we'll have to go to like Weight Watchers or Slimming World to do it in front of like 25 middle-aged women
with the podcast equipment.
yeah, just there. Anyway, so I didn't know what to do. Genuinely, I didn't know what to do, and I wrote down genuinely on my book. 19 stone 6, 123.6 kilo, scales issue, right? And when I sent you that saying, shall I just go midway between your 19.2 and your 19.9 or whatever, as the midway point, a bit like putting your house on the market, middle of the 3, and you wrote back and went, that's it, I quit.
Yeah, but I did put a smiley face, and it was part of the running gag that I can't quit my own podcast.
So I'm like, in the last 2 weeks, I've just kept, the same way. Whereas I've got you going right. I'm weighing on different floors. This week it's broken.
I'm not having this. I'm not having this.
I'm like, it takes me back to season 1 when you were like, you were weighing in your pants. Then you're weighing in your jeans. Then you got your trainers and your duffel coat on, and you're like, "What is going on? I don't know whether you've won or you haven't."
Yeah, we do need to sort it out. I do need to. Check the viability of the scales and whatnot. But yeah, that's something that does need doing. So
listeners, we're starting a GoFundMe to buy new scales for Rich and I. to make this, make sure this is consistent and what's going on. But aside from the scales, I think it would be really good to talk about progress.
Yeah.
Because you started your February exercise bike challenge.
I have indeed, yeah.
How's that? So here we are, 8th of February. How are you getting on?
Yeah, been going all right, actually. Been pretty good. Been usually trying to do it first thing in the morning. There's been a couple of times where I've actually gone on it a bit later in the day instead, but try to go on there sort of first thing, get up, get changed, and then just go on the bike, or sort of plan it that way. There was the one day where, unfortunately, I didn't get to go on the bike. I think we spoke about this. I did get some physical exercise in, though, because I did help my dad to move my mum and dad's old sofa. So that was not part of the challenge, obviously, but I still got a little bit of exercise in, at least, doing that. It's a blooming heavy sofa, I can tell you that. So my brother and I helped with that. But I have been going on the bike. I have been getting much better with that. I changed the song I was listening to yesterday when I was playing, so I've gone with a slightly longer song as well. So rather than just going, sometimes we'll play one song, maybe two, that are both a bit short, try and play some longer songs as well, testing that out, and that went well. So I think it is improving. I am getting a little bit more used to it. Probably just need to start upping the intensity a little bit. I've been kind of trying to build up a bit of a baseline. So yeah, I need to probably start getting a bit of maybe doing one song on a sort of warm-up routine and then up it to a bit of an incline or something like that. I don't know, but doing a little bit more with that.
So have you effectively done 7 days out of 8 then?
Yes.
All right, so you've been on this morning as well?
No, I'm going on after this recording.
Oh, good save.
I am going on after this recording.
Okay, all right. I believe you.
I had to prep for this morning.
Okay.
But I will, I'll be on it straight after this, and obviously I'll be seeing you later so I can report on that.
I was going to say that's the reason for this sort of scheduling virtually today. We have actually got a plan later where we've got to travel we're seeing a show later and stuff, so I wasn't able to obviously visit you today to record in person. But that's, obviously we're going to have hopefully a good evening this evening. So how have you found then from, say, the first day to, yesterday? Have you been recording your times, or have you seen an improvement in, how are you kind of monitoring your progress?
I haven't been recording things like that, but what I have been doing, and what I might do, because I know what the songs are and whatnot, I could probably put that on, but I have noticed my knees are feeling a little bit better. Okay. Now, I don't know if that is just from, I don't think it's sort of a weightless thing. I think it's maybe more just using them to go on the bike a little bit more. Maybe it's sort of just easing them up. I don't know. But my knees are certainly feeling a lot better. I know just even sitting here now, when we normally record, I'm sat with my legs stretched out right and whatnot, because it is quite painful sometimes. But it hasn't been bothering me as much, I will say that. And yesterday was the first day that I really noticed that. I did find that it was just a little bit easier on the knees. Didn't change any of the settings on the bike or anything like that. I just changed the song length that I was cycling to on the bike. But yeah, it does feel better on the knees a little bit, and I don't know if that's maybe, I wanted to say it might be a temperature thing, but it was quite cold yesterday, so maybe not that, because I do know in the winter they do feel worse than they do in the summer as well.
I think it'd definitely be useful if you had some kind of metrics where you look at obviously where you were at from the sort of first day to the last day, for example, maybe, and see then how you'd take it on if you move that on into March, or because I think that's the thing. Are you just going to do February, or are you actually going to sort of
I'd like to keep it going. And I kind of felt like, because I don't feel it's a great baseline, like there are things on there that tell you what you're doing and whatnot, but it's not great. It's an old exercise bike. It was my mum and dad's old exercise bike that they never used, and they were getting rid, and I went, "I'll go on, I'll have it." But it's been all right. It's been quite a good run on there. I've been going on. Like I say, there was one day I missed, but apart from that, going to go on it after this recording. So yeah, we'll certainly. It's been easier, as I say, on the knees. It's certainly helping with that. I think it has. Just getting used to sort of a bit more movement and whatnot. I did actually get a suggestion from Ruth that I should potentially look at, if I'm not enjoying the bike so much, maybe swap it out for another exercise. If there's something that I do find a little bit more enjoyable to do, so maybe a bit of running, or I know we had the Amy P gave us the idea of burpees and whatnot, and I won't be doing the burpee challenge, but maybe there is something else that could be substituted in there potentially. I think what I'll do is I'll stick with the bike for February, and then in March see how we feel about things, and if there's something else that I sort of go, actually this is more of a thing I enjoy doing, I can maybe swap it out. Certainly not ready for insanity yet, but I'll leave that to you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think the point is, it's finding that thing that you enjoy as well and keeping it going, and that's a big part, obviously, of the progress thing. And you mentioned insanity. Obviously, we do have much love for Sean T on this podcast, and I have done that this morning. So while you were doing your technical prepping, for which you are the undisputed king, of IT of that, I was sweating with Sean this morning, which was my 4th of the week with Sean, following 3 last week as well. So I do feel, although in terms of the scales for me have kind of been a bit of a plateau for this last couple of weeks, actually in terms of that progression, I've actually been getting into a much better routine, I think, with Sean, and I am actually feeling a bit better. So even if it's not reflected in that figure, I have to say personally, I just feel, definitely a little bit more, I don't know, like less, you feel like a bit less bloated, or perhaps that post-Christmas that you have and all that, you're kind of definitely starting to feel a little bit fitter. Which is nice. So I'm hoping to just keep going with that, really, and hopefully the knee continues to be better than obviously what happened when I moved that plant pot last year and all the rest of it, and that continues to maintain me doing it, because that was a real problem last year. Then I'd try and do Sean, and the whole knee just kept recurring and stuff. But that seems to have hopefully recovered, touch wood, at the moment. So I'm enjoying that, and I kind of took on a whole new mantle of it, Rich. We've often talked on the show about different things, and last week's episode where we spoke to Tammy, who was obviously so motivational, and we talked a bit about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his motivational things. Well, I got motivated by something, because you also know I've been doing my 100-day writing challenge.
Yes.
Now, I'm up to, where are we? Is it day 37 at the time of recording? I haven't written, obviously, yet today, but that's going to be after this recording. I'll do something today. But I've been trying to obviously fit that in, and Sean, and then obviously when you've got other commitments, work and all the rest of it, can be a bit challenging. Now, Saffron Asteria, friend of the show, obviously, who was on in season 2, I've been listening to her podcast. Now, she interviewed author Ivan Scott, which is, I'll be honest, is a really, really good interview. Really enjoyed it. It's a great conversation, great chat. But Ivan came up with this thing around when, he was trying to write his books and stuff, and obviously got his kids and his family, and he was really struggling to get time. He used to be up at 4:30, like, working on his books. It was the only time he had available. And I was struggling one of the days last week to fit in Sean, the writing, work. You know what it's like. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I'd listened to this episode, and it couldn't have been timed better, because I was like, that's absolutely brilliant. What a great idea. So I actually then did. I got up at 4:30 on the morning, sort of middle of last week this was. I wrote for about 40 minutes, stopped, then did Sean for about 40 minutes, Insanity, and by 6:15, I've wrote however many words it was that day, and done Sean, and it's only 6:15 in the morning. And the sense of achievement, like, of being able to do that versus, say, having the extra 2 hours in bed was incredible. And it just shows what you can do. You maybe can't do that every day, but when you put your mind to things, and if you're genuinely trying to maintain, like I've really gone with it with the 100-day writing challenge of trying to do something every day. I think my lowest day is 161 words. My highest day at a writer's retreat was 2,100. But anything in there in between that you can fit in, even if you only got 30, 40 minutes a day, is to find that time. So, I think this is where we're at. You kind of getting onto the exercise bike challenge, me maintaining the Sean and all the rest of it, is us perhaps holding ourselves to account better maybe than we have done for the most part in seasons 1 and 2 around some of these things. And this is a big part of making these sustainable improvements. So I think that's kind of been one of my reflection points at the moment, is how you change sometimes your mentality around things and what you can do versus what you can't do. And Sean's talked about it, Arnold Schwarzenegger's talked about it, and Tammy talked about it to us in what was a very inspiring episode last week. It's how you adapt your mind to these things, isn't it? And put your mind to things as to what you can achieve. And it just shows you. So yeah, I think that's a big thing for us at the moment in terms of this sort of season, is that maintaining staying the course. Even where, say, for example, we don't see huge changes on the scales, if we're actually doing something and we're being productive and all the rest of it, you just keep working at it, and not obviously when you have something you have to go to an event or whatever, and you may not be able to eat as healthy as you like. It's not knocking yourself for that, because that's still important as well, provided you're trying to be better most of the time or doing something constructive, because we are getting old.
Well, yeah, I do think the thing about the food and the eating healthy, though, that you mentioned, I do genuinely think one of the big things about it is not necessarily cutting out food you enjoy. It's about cutting out the silly stuff that you eat. So, for example, you could go and you could buy a takeaway, but you could also cook it yourself. And actually, if you're cooking it yourself, you know what's going into it. The same with like snacking. If you're cutting down on that, actually you find a bit of an improvement there as well. And I have been doing that. I do still have the odd moment where sort of I'll go to the shops and go, I'm really feeling a bit low today. Kind of just go and splurge on some chocolates or something. But trying to really cut that out, and I think it's really helpful actually. And once it's done properly, you enjoy having those treats a little bit more. You enjoy when you do eat, say, a takeaway even. I had, I think we spoke about it the other day, I had quite a bad mental health day the other day while at work. And I did come back and I actually had, and it's terrible for branding, but I did have a Domino's pizza, but I had a small Domino's pizza.
Other pizzas companies are available.
Yeah, but if they want to sponsor us, we wouldn't mind. We could do with the money. Could get all this equipment we need.
I mean, they are about 8 feet from your house, so it's
true.
Convenient. Perhaps you should have walked to a further pizza shop to at least get the walk and balance it.
But I did that, and I did that because I got back quite late, and there wasn't really much time to cook anything. And I thought, well, okay, look, I've actually really cut down on the takeaways. I'm barely. I mean, I used to eat. You'll know, I used to eat probably 3 or 4 takeaways a week. That's been cut down dramatically to probably 1 takeaway every 2 weeks now, which is much better. So had quite a bad day on Wednesday, and obviously was wondering what to do and milling about. And when I finally got home, I just went, I'm gonna treat myself is the wrong term, but I'm just gonna have something. And I've got to admit, it tasted so much better because I hadn't had one for a couple of weeks. And that's sort of the thing. I think you kind of have this convenience food and just eat it all the time, which obviously in the past has been the case with me, certainly. So it is quite interesting when you do sort of cut that out. And of course also then going on the exercise bike the next day, having done it, you're kind of like, I've kind of worked that off a little bit and whatnot. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And I did actually, you saying that about the getting up early, the one day I did get up to go into work, the day after I'd sort of had that moment, and I kind of thought, you know what, actually it's probably better for me to work from home for my mental health. So I woke up as if I was going into work, and I actually went on the exercise bike really early in the morning. I think it was like 6:30 in the morning or 6:45 I was on the exercise bike, which is very much a rarity and will probably never happen again, me being on there at that time of the day. But yeah, it was a really interesting one doing that, and certainly a bit more. It sort of sets you up for the day, having a bit of exercise and stuff like that.
I mean, I think the starting the day right thing is a massive thing, because I actually do prefer working out and stuff in the morning earlier rather than later of an evening. That's just a personal preference, and I think it sets you up for the day. And obviously, I'm no sort of medical expert, but you know that kind of impact you get then of doing that, more alert and whatnot through the day. If you can do it, and it's that building that routine and having that set, and it's knowing what you're going to do. It's that planning in ahead, isn't it? And kind of thinking, right, hang on a minute, when am I doing that day? The writing challenge has done that a lot for me, because I'm like, well, hang on a minute, that's a busy day with this, and this. When am I fitting that in? When am I factoring that in? When am I factoring Sean in? Doing those things around, well, actually, what time will I be able to do that? What time won't I be able to do that? It's all that kind of thinking ahead and planning into something that shows that commitment. But I think on a slightly lighter note, listeners will know that you recorded an episode with Dan from Casting Views that went out a couple of weeks ago, and then I've just recorded one with Dan this week that will be going out soon. And I was telling a friend about this, Rich, and I've got to bring this, you don't know about this, but this is quite funny. So I had an exchange with a friend about this where I explained that I'd just done this recording with Dan the other night, and they went, "Oh yeah, I remember his episode with you from season 2. It was a really enjoyable episode." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "So sorry, did you do this then? It was just you recording?" I went, "Yeah, Rich did one with him that went out a couple of weeks ago," and he came back and said, "Already both doing your own solo ventures. It's like the start of the Smiths becoming Johnny Marr and Morrissey." And I went, it just would have been too long for one episode if we were both recording at the same time. It would end up being about 3 hours. So if we had to do that episode as both of us and Dan on my web. So it had to be separated too. But that was a really enjoyable thing to do the other night as well. And I think that's the whole thing around the podcasting thing, that's been, being able to talk to people like Dan and Safi and sort of be part of these things as well has been really interesting. So yeah.
Well, on that point about work with Casting Views, I do remember Dan saying to me that at some point he would like to get us both onto an episode and maybe doing the Who's Coming to Dinner format or something like that. But as you say, yeah, it'd probably be a little bit longer than the hour that normally is an episode that'd be on there.
I mean, wait until obviously you get to listen to the one that was recorded the other night, because Raging Rich and Mrs. Shelano get mentioned quite a lot, so it's quite entertaining.
But yeah, I like that kind of thing, and I think it is quite interesting. Actually, upon your recommendation, I've been listening to, I know Casting Views has only just sort of come back after a short break, and I was listening to the episode on, it was the Who's Coming to Dinner again, I think it was, and it was the quote about Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve and that sort of chat that went on. And it was really strange because the week before obviously was my episode, and I'd sort of referenced some of that as well. So it's quite an interesting thing with back-to-back episodes that sort of had a similar reference. And I was like, oh, that's quite an interesting thing, especially from the standpoint that obviously we are British and the guest that was on the week after me is American. And so obviously you sort of see those references from the media or from certain things. It was just such a coincidental thing. It was actually, my reference came from the Christopher Reeve autobiography and his reference came from the documentary that's just come out. But that was quite an interesting thing to hear as well.
Yeah, and also we touched on talking about Robin Williams in the mental health episode we did in season 2 with Mel from Men Against Mountains as well. We touched on talking about Robin there. So I took an interest in it from that point of view, about how we're all obviously coming around some of the same sort of themes of different things, even though we're all obviously different people, different sides of the Atlantic and all the rest of it. But so that's interesting. But yeah, and then how's your cookbook coming along, Rich? Are you still in negotiations? Are you anywhere near getting to a cover for Raging Rich's recipes? Soup, satay, and scones.
You know what's quite interesting about it? I haven't done as much of that sort of side of the cooking as I would have liked to, but I've done a few little bits and bobs, but just sort of the standard, the naan bread pizzas and that kind of thing that I've done in the past, rather than kind of starting some new ones. But what's quite interesting with all of that is just sort of seeing how you can kind of modify things a little bit. So, for example, I've always done enchiladas. I've done those for a few years now. I'd like to think that's probably the one thing I can cook quite confidently without worrying about anything. But then that sort of takes you into the spaghetti bolognese sort of thing, and doing pasta bakes and that kind of thing, chilies. You literally can kind of go, oh, now I can do this one thing. You can kind of play around with the ingredients a bit and apply some other ingredients to make stuff. I did a lasagna last year, and I want to start trying that again, because I kind of feel like I didn't do the best with the lasagna last year. It was nice. It was only me who had it. I had a few portions of it, but I do think I could probably improve on that and have another go. My thing that I haven't noticed, and I said this to my mum and dad the other week, is now that I'm actually cooking things for myself a little bit more, and I'm eating food that's actually properly been prepared rather than sort of the processed stuff and the things that you do, I'm seasoning things, and things don't taste so bland. Like, I've realised there are things that I'm eating and I'm going, I used to think that tasted far better than that, and they're quite bland, a lot of things that you actually do eat, and you realise what putting certain spices and herbs and the salt and pepper and all that sort of stuff, like, you don't realise what a difference it makes until you started doing it regularly. I mean, with my Sunday dinners at my mum and dad's, used to just eat the Sunday dinner as it was, and then a few years back started putting salt and pepper on it. It was like, I've been missing out here. So yeah, it's that kind of thing, just of
I don't know.
What?
I'm sorry, salt and pepper's kind of a bit of a staple. I genuinely was sitting here thinking, what's he going to say he put on here? Is he going to say he went with like mustard or
no, I don't like mustard. I've got to admit, I don't like
something.
But then, okay, so I have been using like a bit of paprika. I'll put paprika into. Well, oh, no, don't start this again. I'm not having this.
It's your pronunciation of paprika that's just cracking me up a little bit. Sorry.
Paprika.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know why it's just making me laugh.
Oh my God. I'm going to return your early birthday present now. This is terrible.
Well, no need
keep it
for
for myself.
No need for that. I'm ordering you some scales for next week.
Oh, yeah. You might just do when you see this.
Okay. Paprika.
So I've been doing a bit of that. I did mention the what did I call it? Easy peasy garlic or something. I called it once. Like those kind of things, the little spice tub things that you can get. Those kind of things. I've got a few of those now.
I mean, Mrs. Shelano uses a lot of different spices. She's got like a cupboard full of all these different, concoctions of things. And it does. You're right. It makes a big difference to flavouring the food, which makes it much more enjoyable, certainly. And cooking is something I need to get back more into. I'll be honest, with my writing challenge for the second book and everything else, that's been something that's kind of not been where it needs to be. So I need to get back on it. I'm not obviously going to challenge you with doing my own cookbook or anything like that. I don't think that's going to work. Shelano starters. You could have
your own little side part of the book when we eventually do it. Shelano sides or Shelano starters.
Yeah, Shelano starters I quite like. Where else could we go? T.A.'s tiramisu. I don't know. T.A.'s tuna mayo. I don't know. Whatever. We'll just
Raging Rich's Rogan Josh.
Yeah, T.A.'s toasties. What about the Shelano satay? Oh, challenge.
No,
challenge.
No.
Mrs. Shelano did.
I know Mrs. Shelano did, and she took great pleasure in telling me how long it took to make in comparison to my effort as a beginner.
She took great pleasure in saying, there you go, it took me 18 minutes, took you 18 months.
I'd like to think mine would be better because we knew hers would be good. Mine, there was no expectation. We pretty much would have thought it'd be a terrible disaster. So I'd taken the win here.
With yours, we were just glad it happened because in the end, that was the main.
I'm not having this. It took 18 months. This is terrible.
It didn't take 18. That was a joke.
I know, but this is terrible. People are going to believe that. Some people only listen to this as episode 1 of their journey with us. They're going to think it really did take 18 months.
Well, go back and treat yourself to the previous 25. Okay, well, I think that probably sort of starts to wrap us up for this episode. It's very different, I have to say.
It is. It is different. It's useful, though, like we say. It's useful for if we do need to record and we can't be in the same place.
We have got You've got to get on the exercise bike.
Got to get on the exercise bike.
I've still got to do some writing towards the second book as part of my 100-day writing challenge as well.
And
so
then
this is just managing time here.
Well, we've done very well, and then obviously going to see Catherine Ryan tonight, so that should be a very entertaining evening, hopefully.
Yeah, looking forward to that. It should be good. I've had those tickets for a while. Yeah, have a bit of a laugh this evening, and you can get back on the exercise bike tomorrow, and get back with day 38 tomorrow of the writing challenge. But yeah,
very good.
Just keeping this going, trying to keep this going, and that's the theme, folks. Just keep going. Progress is progress, no matter how small.
100%. So thank you everyone for listening. T.A, I shall see you a little bit later on. And podcasters, we will be with you next week. So thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Two best mates, yeah, they take you to stand. Raging Rich and T.A, got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real. Oh, it's the middle-aged